Okay, so our next step after we have the loop piece settled is to create our tie piece. We're creating that from the original tie. I'm not going to go through how to do that because you have this file and you can just copy and paste my front pieces into your own file. Okay, so our first step then, after our front pieces are created, is to go into Arrange and place them on the body exactly like we did with the tie. So we don't actually need, or the loop, sorry. We don't actually need this original tie piece arranged. We just need our three new tie pieces. So again, I used my marquee tool. I'm clicking and dragging them over to the torso, letting it blink 3 times, and then releasing my mouse. Now they're placed on the body. Since I still have my auto lock on, when I put these new pieces into 3D, everything else freezes. Okay, so I want all of these to be on my highest layer, higher than my loop that I made in my last video. So they're all on layer 8. And again, you can change those over on the right-hand side of your Arrange mode screen. Okay. So next step after I have them arranged is to go back into your select, and we are going to add a fold line to this front piece. Actually, yeah, okay, we're going to add a fold line to this front piece. So clicking on the center vertical line, we're going to go over onto our right hand side and click on the little box next to fold. All right, so we want to make sure that the light pink is on the outside because that's the correct side of our fabric. So we can go into advanced under the fold option, and you can see I have mine set to -170, and the fold angle is 120. If it's not negative, I'll show you. My wrong side of my fabric is going to be on the outside of my fold. So that's why I have it at -170. All right, so then after we have our fold set up, we're going to stitch. We can, for now, we can hide our two end pieces. I'm just going to click on both of them. I used my shift on my keyboard to select both. I'm just going to click use in 3D to hide them for now while we work on this middle piece. So we have it folded. Next we're going to stitch it. So we need to stitch it together, and we also need to stitch it to our loop that we created. So to stitch it together, I'm just going to stitch end to end, or rather like side to side, just using your single stitch tool, and that's going to make sure that it's creating a loop. And then to stitch it to our loop that we've already created, so since it's folded, we're going to stitch the center fold line to one side and then the edge to the other. So I'm clicking on my center fold line, referencing my 3D, and then I'm clicking on the matching line that I created on my loop. Okay, and then I'm going to click on my other side. It doesn't matter which side you actually click on since they're sewn together. And then on my other line that I created on my loop. Okay, so now that that's all stitched together, it kind of looks a little bit confusing. What we can do to make that better is go into our select tool, and we can use our gizmo to scooch this over. And then if I right click and hold on my garment and press look at, it gives me, with my left side of my mouse, I can kind of look around my whole garment to see what's going on with the stitching. So nothing is crossed. So I think the next step that we're going to do is we're going to dress it. So the goal for this piece is to kind of look messy. See how it dresses, and it doesn't look perfect. but it kind of looks like a knot. Like a knot isn't going to be a perfectly flat piece. So that's why this piece is so big and we're stitching it to small sections on our loop. So I'm going to leave it like this. And the next step is we're going to now put these two end pieces back into 3D. Since we have our auto lock on, the knot will freeze, it'll be locked, and we're going to stitch them. So I'm just going to stitch them kind of exactly like what we did to stitch our knot piece to our loop. I'm going to stitch one side to the side of my knot, and then the other end to the center of my knot, because it's folded. Okay, so those two are stitched and we can dress. And then of course you can use styling tools to make sure that they look better. But one thing that I do want to make sure I cover is, since these are split in half, we need to make sure that we change the physics of these two pattern pieces, of the fabric that's applied to these two pattern pieces, to reflect how it's 2 layers. So what we can do is we're going to go into materials on the left hand side of our screen, and I've already done it on mine, but what you would do is you right click on your pattern piece and go into fabric resources, and that is going to tell you on the left hand side what fabric you're using at the moment. And then you're going to clone that fabric. Okay, so it's a group, so clone group. You're going to click on it, and then on the right hand side it'll say physics. Click on physics, and then just double the thickness. So this is 0, I'm just going to put in 2, and then press OK. And then you're just going to apply this fabric that you've just doubled the thickness of. You're going to assign it to your 2 end pieces, and then it will be thicker. What you can also do is click on the pattern pieces and then make sure you're in line mode instead of piece, and apply a force multiplier to the pieces to give it a little bit more depth. And then I'm just going to go back to my final screenshot. This isn't perfect, but that's what you should end up with, something like that.